Welcome to the Simply Luxurious Kitchen, and welcome to my kitchen here at Le Papillon in Bend, Oregon. And we are making a dish today that is inspired directly from a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant in France. And it is one of the simplest recipes you could make that will appear to be super fancy. We will have it done in about 15 minutes. So say, what are we making? We're making la scalope de saumon à l'oseille, which is simply salmon cutlet with creamy sorrel sauce. But this is the dish that helped or became an integral part in how the restaurant La Maison Troisgros became well known in the northwest part of France. It has, as I mentioned, 3 Michelin stars, and it was in 1962 with this dish that they started to gain name recognition. And in 65 and 68 is when they earned their 2nd and 3rd Michelin stars. They have held a Michelin star for 50 consecutive years. And with 4 generations now of the Troisgros family, this is a restaurant you definitely want to visit. All right, so now I'll tell you some funny little stories about the restaurant as we go through this. So you may remember that we had sorrel a couple years ago in season 3, and we paired it with chicken. You can pair it with all sorts of proteins. It is delicious. It's a wonderful herb to grow in your garden to season fish because it brings in a citrus flavor, and it looks a lot like spinach. All right, so it has the oval leaves, and I've just started to destem them here. I have very little sorrel left now that it's the end of the summer because I've been using a lot of it. I've been making this dish actually quite a bit for guests and friends, and just simply to prepare for this episode. But it is so simple. So how I want to begin this is by preparing the salmon. Now, I went to my fishmonger in my grocery store, who I'm quite friendly with my fishmonger, my cheesemonger. They know my face, they know what I like now. But you'll notice that I asked him to take the skin off because I didn't want to do it at home. And it's much easier for them to do it because they typically have a fillet knife right there. I don't have a fillet knife yet. That is something on my list of items to add to my kitchen. But since they can do it so much more quickly, they do it all the time, you save a lot of meat. And so then you want to make sure all the bones are out. And an easy way to do that is to take a dish, about a small dish, medium dish, drape the salmon over the top, and the bones will be easy to find. You can easily pluck them out. So I have about a ½ pound of king salmon here. I was so excited to get that. Now, oftentimes you'll notice that salmon is uneven, right? You have a very narrow waistline, and then it's thicker in the meaty part of the chest. We want to, and this may sound silly, but it actually makes complete sense. We want to tenderize this so that the thickness is the same throughout. So I'm going to get my mallet. Now, there actually are mallets out there that are flat and square, about 4 or 5 inches square, and you always want the flat side. You don't want the more strict or more destructive side, I guess you could say. But you want the flat side, but you can find fish tenderizers or mallets that are far larger, and that way you don't have to hit multiple times. You can hit just a few more times, fewer times than that. So you want about a ½ inch to a 1/4 inch thickness, and you will notice that on one part you're going to have to tenderize a bit more because it's thicker. So just be thoughtful about keeping it as equal as possible. And of course, this also tenderizes it, but I find salmon is quite tender already. Okay. And just feel it as you're going through. That'll tell you if it's equal. Okay. A little bit in the middle. And it will expand, as you'll see here. Mine looks like a bat of some sort. If you want to be very precise, you can now slice it so it has very straight edges, and we'll do that. So this is ready to go. Okay. So I just want to straighten up the edges. Just makes for a very nice presentation. Now, if I am just eating this on my own, or if this is just for two people who just want to enjoy good food, the presentation is not important, I will keep that on there, it doesn't matter. All right, this is a half a pound of salmon. This is enough for two people, so I'm gonna slice this in half. Perfect. And now I'm going to season it. Now, let's talk about pepper. So, when I was learning how to make this dish, Jean-Baptiste is the current head of La Famille Troisgros, and he was teaching this lesson, and I was paying attention on a video. I was watching him make it in his kitchen, and he talked about white pepper. So what I've decided to do in my own kitchen, because I'm constantly using pepper, and I'm also constantly making fish, is to have a white peppercorn pepper meal and a black peppercorn meal. Why white pepper? For fish, it's a more delicate flavor. It's not going to be as hot as black pepper is. We'll talk about why that happens in a second, because they come from the same plant. These are not coming from two different plants, but they are processed differently. So white pepper is more delicate. You'll often find white pepper in Chinese dishes, in Thai dishes. If you cook in dishes in those different areas of interest, you probably already know this, but that is when you'll often see it. So also when you're cooking with fish, I highly recommend it. Part of the reason, to be fair, that the French recommend white pepper in white sauces and on fish, which is typically more white. Not all, salmon obviously isn't, is that it's for presentation's sake. You don't see it. The fish shines, the dish you're trying to, the sauce you're trying to make shines. There's no dark pepper flakes in it. But it does lend itself to marry very nicely with the fish, which is already very delicate, has a natural subtle sweetness, and this pepper is subtle as well. Now, let's talk about the difference. So you have your black peppercorns, and if you look at a black peppercorn, let's pull out a few here, okay? They are, as we know, dark, black, and wrinkly. So how this happens, black peppercorns are harvested just before they're ripe. And then they're cooked and then dried. So thus the dark color and the wrinkles comes from the cooking and the drying. And that retains a lot of the heat, so the skin stays on. So with black peppercorns, the skin stays on, and that's where a lot of the kick is. All right, I'll put those back. The white peppercorn is different. Again, comes from the same plant, but if you look, white peppercorns are not wrinkly, and clearly they're not black. They are white or blanched. They are blonde, I guess you could say. Why? They are harvested when they're already ripe, so you don't harvest them early. Then they are soaked in a fermentation that helps take the skin off that the black peppercorns keep on, and then the skins come off, and thus there's a more delicate, less hot flavor, okay? Then they do dry these peppercorns, but they don't get wrinkly. They don't get wrinkly because the skin is gone, and that's what would have wrinkled. All right, I also want to talk about the importance of having whole peppercorns. This will also be a budget saver. So whole peppercorns can retain their flavor for over a year. If you haven't used it and you still have it in the pastry or your pantry, and you have a jar, I have mine in different jars in there because I try to buy in bulk, but they will still retain the flavor you want for over a year. If you already have ground the pepper or purchase it ground, you want to use it immediately because it'll be about a month, and then the flavor that you want, the flavor you purchased it for, is gone. So it's actually, budget-wise, a smart decision to buy peppercorns. So the freshest flavor, the flavor that you want, is when you grind it right then when you're cooking. So I highly recommend whichever kind of peppercorns you like and use to buy them whole, and then don't be in a hurry because you have time to use them. We are only going to use white peppercorns today, so I'll keep this out. And that's what we're going to season the salmon with. Okay. Love that. Okay. We are also going to season a little bit of with a little bit of flaky sea salt. Okay. All right. So the salmon is prepared. Now, when it's flipped to the second side, we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Now let's prepare the sorrel. So the sorrel I picked out of my garden. I said, like I mentioned, it's on its last legs as far as I don't have a lot of beautiful big leaves, but they are still lovely and green. You want to de-stem this because all you need is a handful. And they look a lot like spinach leaves. In fact, when I served this to some friends a couple weeks ago for dinner, before I was able to explain what it was, they thought it was spinach, and it makes sense. They look exactly like spinach, but it does not taste like spinach. It is so much more flavorful. It has a lovely, subtle, citrusy flavor. And so you have that lemon flavor that pairs so beautifully with fish, as we know. So to de-stem, take a leaf, fold it in half, and sometimes the leaves are really big, so it's a lot easier, and just pull the leaf or the stem out down the middle. And if it's a tiny leaf, it's hard to get it perfect, but if it's a big one, they just kind of rip right out. It's really nice. So I'm going to prepare the leaves, and then we'll turn around and we'll make the sauce. My helper over here. Miss Nell is loving the kitchen. She and Norman are usually underfoot right behind me when I'm in the kitchen, but they know that I'm going to be in here a while, and they've been watching me prepare for this episode for a while, so they're like, I'm just going to watch you from afar. So a funny story about La Maison Troisgros restaurant, I should say. It is, first of all, in northwest, as I said, France, just outside of Lyon. So as we know, Lyon is the gastronomical capital of the world, and this restaurant is quite close. In fact, so close and so easy to get to because it is right across from the town's train station. And now it is better known as, the train station is better known as the train station across from La Maison Troisgros. Whereas before, back in 1950s, and actually the restaurant itself opened up in the late 1950s, but the family was cooking family meals and making them available to the public in the early 1950s. It was known then as the restaurant across from this train station. Not anymore. Now it's the train station that's located across from that 3-star Michelin restaurant, Troisgros. One other thing about sorrel, now I mentioned I've used this in a recipe in season 3. This is not an herb that I find as a full plant in a nursery. I have to grow this from seed, but it is simple. A $4 packet of seeds, sow it in April, pop up. One little seed can give you a nice, my plant is doing so well, and I planted it in 2020. And it's still going strong. It made it through the Bend winters, and we have cold winters here. So it is one of those herbs to absolutely have in your garden, and you will not regret it. I use it for all sorts of things. With, like I said, the sauces for fish. I love my chicken and sorrel. That is actually a viewer favorite as well. Many of you have shared you make that quite frequently, and when you do, you get rave reviews from those who are enjoying dinner with you. I also use sorrel with my eggs, very much like spinach. You cook it down in the pan with your skillet, with a little bit of butter or olive oil, whichever you prefer, and I pair it with my eggs. So you can use it for breakfast, for dinner, for lunch, whatever you want to use it for, and it's just wonderful flavor without having to go through a lemon. In fact, I think it's better than a lemon. But anyway, so we have our sorrel already, and we're going to start making the sauce. Let me first talk us through the sauce. So the sauce is something, again, that is just pretty classic French sauce. Nellie is trying to chase a fly at this moment. So it's the simple things. Okay, so what we're going to use is fish stock. Okay, you want 2 cups of fish stock for 2 people. In all sincerity, this is enough sauce-wise for 4 people, so you really don't need to double the sauce if you're making 4 servings, and then slightly increase it for more servings. So you're going to use 2 cups of fish broth. If you do not have fish broth, it is absolutely fine to use chicken broth. I know that sounds absurd because you're cooking with chicken, but hey, you come home, you want to make this dish, but oh man, I don't have fish sauce or fish stock. That's okay. You have chicken stock, which is what a lot of us have in our fridge. I know I do. Don't let it go to waste to use it. It'll just be a subtle difference, but you probably won't even tell because the rest of this is just so amazing. It's going to knock your socks off. It's just creating a base. The second component that we're going to make sure we use is a little bit of vermouth. Not a lot. You're only using 2 tablespoons, but you do want vermouth. Now, what is it? First of all, it is a wine. It's not a spirit. It is a fortified wine. There are spices and herbs and more of an organic flavor here, a subtle sweetness, which is why we're only using 2 tablespoons. Now, I'm going to use the famous Noli Prat. Just ask your wine shop owner to find this for you. They will have it. It's pretty common for French sommeliers or French wine shops. If they specialize or they make sure that they have the well-known names and labels, they'll have Noli Prat. But you want vermouth. Just 2 tablespoons though. This has been sitting in my fridge for about 6 months and it's still great. And then, now you do want a dry wine, 6 tablespoons of a dry wine, preferably Sancerre. But if you have Chardonnay, not Sancerre in the fridge, completely fine. So 6 tablespoons of a dry wine, 2 tablespoons of vermouth, and 2 cups of fish broth. If you don't have fish broth, it's completely fine. Use chicken broth. All right. Then you're going to need to find creme fraiche. Creme fraiche is going to be a little bit of a thickening agent to add a little bit, well, depth of flavor and yum. If you don't have creme fraiche, that's okay. Use heavy whipping cream, same amounts, and it will taste very similar. I prefer the thickness of my creme fraiche. It's just something, it's just a preference, but if I am without this, I will absolutely put in heavy cream and it still tastes very good. And then you're going to need 1 shallot. So I've already chopped up the shallot. The shallot is something that brings, again, a subtle sweetness. Notice there is this gentle theme running through this dish because we're working with a delicate protein. We're working with fish. So if you don't have a shallot, which sometimes I do not, in fact, for this recipe today, I didn't. I completely forgot to pick up a shallot, but I did have a sweet onion. So a sweet onion would be the next option, and then your yellow onion. So as far as going down the line of onions, and then the red onion. Again, keeping it subtle. Now, I think I've gone through everything, so it's time to make this dish. So simple, we'll be done in 10 minutes. All right, now to make this lovely dish. The sauce first, because the salmon will cook so fast, you want to just put it on the plate, dress it up, and serve it. You'll want 2 skillets, one that you'll cook your salmon in, which is going to be a dry pan. So you can cook your salmon in the same pan that you make your sauce, but you're going to have to clean it out because you're going to actually have nothing in your skillet when you cook the salmon. We'll talk about that in a second. So you want to turn the first skillet for the sauce to medium high heat, pretty hot. We're going to combine all 3 liquids. So first we'll put the fish stock in. Hot, which is good. I'm just going to actually put a cup in this time. And then you want 2 tablespoons of your vermouth. That pan cooled down very quickly with the cold fish broth, so make sure it's at medium-high heat. And then you want 6 tablespoons of your Sancerre or dry wine. In this case, Chardonnay would be fine too. Along with that is when you put the shallot in, and I'm just going to put a tablespoon of this shallot in, maybe a little bit more. And you want to bring this to a boil. And you want to reduce the amount of liquid by 1/3. So we have the 3 liquids, we have the shallots. That's all you have to have to start. Medium-high heat, reduce it down by 1/3. Here we go. Again, you'll notice I have my mise en place all set up here. There isn't a lot to it. It's very simple, but it goes fairly quickly. Oh, I have to bring this one over here. I have my creme fraiche. I have my sorrel. I also forgot to mention you're going to need unsalted butter, just about a tablespoon. Get the best though you can, because this is a sauce and everything is going to be pronounced. The layers will make a difference. I have my salmon ready to go, and my salt and my pepper, my white pepper and my salt. Actually, my flaky salt. So you can have everything here and you'll finish the dish right here. So let's bring this sauce to a boil and get it to simmer until it was reduced by a third. Smells good already. I love the smell of the liquids in this. From the wine to the fish broth, just yummy. So the sauce is already starting to be reduced, you can see here. And again, keep it on a simmer, so medium-high heat. And this will take about 5 minutes. Just be patient. You don't really have to stir it. Just hang out with it and get ready to add the creme fraiche. Okay, this has been reduced by a third. So what I want to add now is keep the heat the same. 3/4 of a cup of creme fraiche. And this is going to immediately cool down the sauce. You're going to have to stir it in, and it will take about 5 minutes to heat back up, and also you want to reduce the sauce a little bit more beyond when you put it into the sauce in the first place. So don't worry if it starts to stop bubbling. That makes sense. The cream is cold. Even if it's room temperature, it's not the temperature of the pan. So give it a moment, stir it in, and reduce it a little bit, and we're almost done. It's already getting thicker. You're not going to have a thick soup of a sauce, but you do want to reduce it. Give it time. Have patience. This is where you want to open that glass of wine. You've already done it technically. Pour yourself a little sipping wine to enjoy as you prepare for dinner. And just enjoy this very simple recipe. It's going to knock your socks off. Okay, now the sauce has been reduced a bit. It is incorporated. It does incorporate quite quickly, the creme fraiche, once you use a whisk. I did switch to a whisk for this part. Now you want to actually add white pepper to the sauce. We've already put it on the salmon, but we want to put it in the sauce too. So a couple turns of that here. You want a few flaky sea salt flicks in there. And you also want to add 2 tablespoons of butter. Unsalted butter, approximately. I never do exactly anything when I'm making sauces. It's all to taste, so I'll taste this and adjust. All right, incorporate that. Have your lemon. So I sliced a lemon. Have this nearby because you want to put about a tablespoon of lemon juice in here. We're going to basically add multiple layers of that citrus flavor. So the sorrel is the last thing that goes in, but it is the star of the show. But this actually gives a little more intensity to the lemony. So another example of, if you don't have sorrel, use lemon juice. I will say I've done that before and it does work, but the best sauce I've found is with the sorrel. And then on the flip side, if you don't have lemon, just use the sorrel. You don't have to use both, but this is what just adds layers of flavor. Now we'll add about a tablespoon of lemon juice. I just squeeze it into my hand, which catches the seeds. Okay, there we go. We are almost done. Now, since we are almost done, I'm going to turn the heat on to the pan for the salmon. And it's going to be a hot heat. You want medium-high for sure here, because it's going to cook quickly. And so if you want to keep it all at the same temperature or similar temperatures, you can do it simultaneously. But I never start the salmon until I know my sauce is entirely done. I'm using a cast iron skillet. You want anything that is non-stick. This has been recently seasoned because you're using a dry pan. You don't want the salmon to stick. So make sure whatever you're using is non-stick, and I'm ready to give you that salmon every little piece. You don't want to waste a bite or a nibble. Now, the other beautiful thing about salmon is it's one of the best foods for your brain, for your mind, for the nutrients, the omega fatty acids. And so I do eat a lot of fish, but I specifically eat a lot of salmon. And so just finding different ways to cook with salmon, especially when I find it in the French cuisine, that's, you know, I'm like, yes, I'll give that a try. So I tried this for the first time last year, fell in love with it, actually posted it on the blog. And as I've been making it all summer, I'm like, this has got to be part of the series this year, or the episodes this year in this season. And so made it a couple times for friends. They loved it, and I was like, okay, this is going on the show. All right, so now the sauce is ready for the last component that makes it the creamy sorrel sauce, the losé. So again, a handful is all you need. If you have any big leaves, just rip them up, and you're gonna just add it to the sauce. And watch how quickly these bright green leaves turn brown, and that's what you want. And that is it. It takes 1 to 2 minutes to incorporate the sorrel into the sauce you've already created. It'll appear that those brilliant green leaves turn brown. That's what you want. The flavor is being shared with the rest of the sauce, and that is what makes it so special. That's that citrus lemony flavor. All right, so my pan is hot. It's ready to go. Grab a spatula, a firm spatula that can easily get under each of the skillets without them breaking or falling apart. I've seasoned the first side, remember, already, so I can just put them in the pan. Just 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. That's all it needs to do. Okay. I'm going to season the other side. Okay. Flaky sea salt, as well as the white pepper. And again, this is why you've tenderized it primarily so that it cooks evenly. And this is something to think about with a lot of different meats. I do this with my chicken all the time, so that you're not having one part of the chicken that cooks too quickly and then it's overcooked and then the rest is not cooked enough and it gets frustrating. But it also ensures tenderness, and an extra benefit, it cooks really fast. I know when I tenderize chicken, those chicken tenders cook so much more quickly, saving a little bit of time when I'm really hungry. All right, so you can see here on the side of one of the fillets, it is already cooked more than halfway through, and we've just been chatting for maybe a minute. I'm continuing to let this sauce cook because I want to get it a little thicker. It's not going to hurt it, it's just going to reduce it down even more. All the flavors are staying, now they're just going to get intensified. Okay, I'm going to flip my salmon. I've seasoned it. Oh, having a seasoned pan makes all the difference in the world. Now the simple trick, since we're waiting for the salmon to be done, and again 30 seconds and I think we will be done. Seasoning this skillet, my cast iron, my favorite cast iron, is so simple to do. You want to just put it on the top of the stove top at high heat. Don't add your olive oil. You don't want to waste your olive oil, but any oil that you maybe want to get rid of, maybe you have some vegetable oil, canola oil, maybe there's a little bit left in a jar. Cover the whole bottom in a slight, maybe 1/8 of an inch of oil, so it's all over there. Let it heat up, so it's almost smoking the kitchen up. And then turn your oven on while you're doing this to the hottest heat it can go to. 450 is what my oven can go to. As soon as that oil has been, you can tell it's really hot, the pan's probably hot to touch, turn it off, keep the oil in it, stick it in the oven, and go about your day. For me, I stuck it in the oven and went about prepping for this episode. So as long as it sits in the oven for an hour or two, again, the oven is turned off as soon as it goes in. So it's reached its temperature, 450 is what my oven goes to. And then just turn it off and let it sit in there and let it just soak into the cast iron. Then when you're done, pour out the oil. Do not wash your pan. Just use a paper towel and gently clean off any of the excess, and you're ready to go. These are done. All right. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, I'll meet you on the other side. I'm gonna put this together and have a bite. So again, this is for 2 people. You can serve up individual dishes or you can serve it as family style and just put it on a platter, which is what I'm gonna do today. So I want to make sure that the sorrel gets in on the platter, but I don't want too much. Okay, maybe make sure there's some sorrel there. Now I'm just going to lay my salmon on top and drizzle a little bit of sauce on the top. Okay. Of each one. And that is it. But first, some wine. They know when the meal is ready to eat. Oh, so we have some wine that we cooked with, but you do want to cook with the wine you want to drink. And now to have a taste. You ready? Look at these 2 intent people. Do you see him lick his lips? My puppies. Okay, here we go. Of course, as you're noticing, probably there's more than enough sauce here for more than just 2 fillets. Okay. That's so good. It's just so good. Make sure you get a sorrel leaf on there. Where did it go? Sorrel leaf. Bless you. There you go. L'escalope de saumon à la sel. Or salmon cutlet with creamy sorrel sauce. You can make this as well, and truly only 2 minutes on one side of the salmon and 1 minute on the other. You don't want dry salmon, you want it to be tender. And you have done that with the tenderizing, and thus the cooking time is reduced. Now they're both sacked out. I do hope you give this a try. It is delicious and very simple. Thank you for joining me today, and may you enjoy your day, enjoy your food, and enjoy stepping into your kitchen. Bonne journée, and have some more bites. Ooh, it's good, you two. It's really good. So good.